Hello, welcome to Gurukul's CAT 100 series, a series that's designed specifically to take you from your study room to the corporate boardroom. I am Prady Sharma and this is Verbal Mastery with Prady. Right, so this is the passage for today. Now, in case you want to take this passage as a test, please go on to www.thegurukul.org.in and sign up for the 100 days to CAT test series. This is a free test series which has been designed to keep you consistent with your practice, where we'll be uploading 100 tests of quant, LRDI and verbal ability to ensure that you directly go from your study room to the corporate boardroom. Pause the video here, jot down all the main points, and then we'll go into the second part of the passage. Now pause the video here, jot down all the main points, and then we'll get into the questions. This is your question number 1. Pause the video here, take 1 minute, and then we'll go into the question number 2. This is your question number 2. Again, take 1 minute, and then we'll go into the question number 3. Now this is your question number 3. Pause the video here, take 1 minute, answer the question, and we'll go into the question number 4. Alright guys, so last question of the passage, question number 4. Pause the video here, answer this question, and put down all your answers in the comment box so that I get to know how many of you got all the 4 questions correct. Now let's get into the passage explanation and question explanations. So, what does this passage talk about? It says, you might reasonably suppose that more democratic countries, institutions, the less inequality it should support. That means what? If democracy is more, then inequality should be less. This is what we should be thinking. You might reasonably suppose, that means this is what you should be thinking, but in reality this is not what's happening, right? That's why he's being skeptical in the starting itself. So rising inequality means that resources are concentrated in the hands of a few. They should never be more easily outvoted by the majority, who are left with a shrinking share of national income. That means what? If inequality is increasing, okay, then the majority should outvote. That means vote against the minority who have more resources, no? Yes? Indeed, some social scientists think that the historical expansions of the franchise, now guys, if you do not know what franchise is giving the right to vote. Okay, came as governments sought credible ways to assure voters that the resources would be distributed more equitably. That means they gave this right to vote so that people think that yes, they are having some kind of a say in the democratic process and the equality is increasing. So DA and JR argued that in 19th century governments, the West faced the threat of socialist revolution. So there was some kind of a threat that people would, revolt against the governments. That is why they made, all these franchise and all. So mere promises of great redistributions were insufficient to eliminate such threats. Institutional guarantees were needed. So they had to provide some kind of a guarantee. Just giving promises that I'll redistribute wealth was not enough anymore. Giving credible guarantees, they reckon, that means they thought, meant increasing the share of the population allowed to vote. So that is what is this franchise. They thought that, okay, if we increase the number of people who vote, okay, that will be a guarantee. That will make people think that yes, they are having some kind of a say in the government's processes. Other researchers argue that anti-majoritarian institutions embedded within the democratic systems, such as Britain's House of Lords and America's Electoral College, were prized by elites, not because they seemed likely to lead better policies, but because they served as a check on the egalitarian tendency of the masses. So now what's he saying over here? In this part, he's telling us that, okay, there are some other researchers. So there's one set of researchers who think that giving people right to vote is a government's way of saying that, yes, you have more equality. Now, there are other researchers who say that there are certain anti-majoritarian institutions. Okay, that means democratic institutions which have been established to work against the majority of the people, like the British House of Lords and America's Electoral College. Now, these were very, prized. That means they were looked at as very important by the elites, by the people who have a lot of money. Not because they were influencing good policies, but because they acted as a check. That means they stopped or they somehow restricted the egalitarian. Guys, now in case you do not know the meaning of egalitarian, it is supporting equal ideas or supporting equality. Okay, so check on the egalitarian tendencies of the masses so that the masses don't think about equality so much. But studies of the relation between democracy and levels of inequality point in conflicting directions. So whenever they've studied about these two constructs, democracy and levels of inequality, they both showed differences. There was some kind of a difference in them. So Mr. A and R, so that person, both of those people tackled this question in another paper. Okay, they wrote it with SN and PR. Okay, so they concluded that democracies raise more taxes than non-democracies do. Now this is a very important idea. Usually if the taxation is more, that means the inequality is more, right? So democracies are raising more taxes than non-democracies, but this does not translate reliably into lower levels of income inequality. That means this is not going into changing the level of income inequality from high to low. The income inequality is still very high. That means only a few people are having high income, majority of people are having lower incomes, right? So one possible reason for this disconnect, so this kind of a difference, why is it coming? One reason is that people don't care much about inequality, or they don't want their politicians to do anything about it. So this is one reason why it could happen. Okay, the authors are thinking that this is one reason why it could happen, but the results of surveys show otherwise. Okay, but the reality is something different. So when asked by pollsters, so when people are polling and all, no, there are people coming, so these pollsters will be there, they ask. So more than 2/3 of Americans and Europeans express concern about the current levels of inequality. That means they are worried about the current levels of the inequality. Alternatively, again, the creaky wheels of Western democracies might have become too jammed. Now, creaky wheels means the wheels that are giving out those weird sound because there's some kind of a friction between them. They're not well oiled. Matlab, अच्छे से नहीं चल रहा है, something that's not moving very well. Okay, so democracy is being compared with creaky wheels over here. Now, democracy has a problem, it's too jammed to make any progress on the issue of substance, whether inequality or some other persistent problem. That means democracy is not able to give us proper solutions to the problems that people have. That is what he is talking about in this part of the passage. But this awareness is also unsatisfying. Why is this answer also unsatisfying? Because the rich world has seen big policy shifts over the past decade. That means the elites and all, they've gotten the government to have some kind of a policy shift. So last year, America's government managed to make a sweeping change to taxes, one that tilts the distribution of income even more in the favor of rich. That means they've made some new reform. Okay, new reform on taxes. So the rich people are now getting more benefited. Okay, so it's not that democracy is not able to make any changes. It is making changes, but only in the favor of the rich people. And in the recent study of European politics, DE and EB. Okay, see, again, I'm not bothered about the names. उनके नाम जान के मेरे को कुछ नहीं मिलने वाला. Find that the political agendas in Europe have become less focused on redistribution, even as inequality has risen. So, inequality has kept on rising, but then surveys are telling us that, or these two people who have found out, that people are not really bothered about redistribution. Okay, though both inequality and public concern about it are increasing, politicians seem less interested in grappling with the problem. That means they are not ready to fight with the problem. The politicians are not ready to fight with the problem. Right, now that we've understood the passage, let's quickly get into the questions. First question, guys, according to the passage, democracies today. So what are these democracies doing? Okay, do not show any robust effect on moderating inequality. Obviously, they're not showing any, positive, they're not showing any healthy effect. Robust means healthy, right? So they are not showing, so this could be my answer. But let's look at the other options also. If there's any other option that's better suited, we'll take that. Otherwise, this will be our answer. Elect governments on the promise of alleviating inequality. See, clearly he said that promises don't mean anything anymore. They need guarantees and they need some kind of, work to be done. So this should not be our answer. Consider inequality as a necessary corollary of economic growth. So no one is saying that if there's economic growth, there will be inequality, at least not in the passage. So I can remove this also as my answer. Back the majority against the few who are wealthy. In fact, the opposite is being told in the passage, right? The opposite, which is that the rich are now backed more, even by anti-majoritarian institutions like the House of Lords and all, or by the government policies. So this clearly is an opposite answer, and this should also be removed. So the best possible answer is A. Now, according to social scientists, historical expansions on the franchise, that means the right to vote. Okay, why was that right to vote given historically? Okay, to license more number of people with the right to vote. Okay, this looks like a good answer, but this does not really give me any reason. This is just a statement, so I'll just keep this aside for now. Pave the way for an expanded role of citizens in policy making. Now see, this has a very positive intention, but according to the author, the actual intention was negative. No, this was to suppress people, right? To show them that they're voting and all, they're having the equality, but not to give them that power. No, so I'm going to remove this. Institutionalize anti-majoritarian systems in democracies. This is a consequence of the right to vote, not the reason for the right to vote. So I'm going to remove this as well. Serve as institutional guarantees to counter potential socialist revolutions. Yes, the government was afraid that these people would revolt against the government. They would overthrow the government. They wanted guarantees. The people wanted guarantees, so the government gave them right to vote. So this is much better an option than A. So we're going to remove A and we're going to go with D as a correct answer. Now let's go to the third question. According to some researchers, anti-majoritarian institutions were. So what were these anti-majoritarian institutions? What function did these anti-majoritarian institutions have? A means of resisting the influence of elites in a democracy. See, they were not resisting the elites. Okay, so this is an opposite answer. We can just remove. Embedded democratic systems and aided effective policy decisions. Again, they were not lauded, they were not praised for their ability to help in the policy decisions, right? So we can remove this as well. Examples of the elites' resistance to equality. Yes, this in a way is true because they helped the elites to resist the equality, so this could be true. Meant to provide representation to the marginalized. Obviously, they didn't do that, correct? They did not provide any kind of a representation to the marginalized, to the people who are actually suffering, who are suffering with poverty or inequality, right? So the correct answer for us will be C, right? So now let's get into the fourth question and the final question of this passage. According to the passage, all of the following are true about democracies. So in the passage, what all is true about the democracies? Okay, and then he says except. That means my question is forcing me to only choose one option which is false about the democracies according to the passage. They raise more taxes from its citizens than non-democracies. Obviously, this has been told to me in the passage, so this is true and hence I can remove this option. They guarantee universal adult franchise without discrimination. Again, it's not told to me if it is without discrimination or what, but it has been told to me that it's given to a lot of people. So this is not told to me. Okay, so if the other two are true, then this becomes my best possible answer. Otherwise, I will not consider this to be my answer. If I find something false, I'll keep false. They are the best form of government that ensures income equality. Now, this is clearly false, right? There is too much inequality, so now I can remove this also, and I can think that this will be my best answer so far. Now let's look at D. Their anti-majoritarian institution may further the interest of the elites, which is absolutely true according to the passage. So I can remove this as well. The best possible answer is C. Now, please tell me in the comments how many questions you have gotten correct. If there are any doubts in your mind, please do not hesitate. Type that down in the comment box and I'll reply back. If you're a serious CAT aspirant, keep watching these videos and share it with all your friends. I'll see you in the next one.
Hope you enjoyed learning from today's session.
This series is designed to help you with your CAT preparation and practice daily. We are with you in this journey.
To watch the next video, click here. And to watch Gurukul's CAT 100 series, study room to boardroom, the entire playlist, click here.
If you learned from today's session, like, share, and subscribe.